Hello followers and welcome to the 1.5 overview update video. So 1.5 will have just released for you. I'm recording it a bit in advance so that I can get this video out as soon as it's released. But basically in this video we're going to be going through all the main features of Minecraft 1.5. So we're just going to start out with some of the general stuff. There's now the direct connect IP is saved even after closing the game, so if you don't add a server to the list and you connect to one, the IP will always be saved. There's a couple of new chat settings available, and the texture packs button has now been moved into the options menu, so it's right here. It's no longer on the main screen. That's made way for a new button which we will get into a little bit later. So smooth lighting has slightly changed. You can now have off, which was just off before, minimum, which was on before, just the usual smooth lighting, or you can have maximum, which includes a few new bug fixes, but is a bit more demanding on your performance. So that is the main changes in terms of options over the menu and such. So, beyond that, we have some really big changes with texture packs. Not only is the button right here now, we can actually have full support for HD textures. I downloaded the Faithful texture pack, and now there is full support for HD textures. Though there is not yet full support for HD fonts. They're still working on that from what I understand. But there you go. I'm going to switch back to the default right now because that's what I want to do this video in, but really handy now that you can just kind of switch texture packs on a click of a button and it doesn't matter if it's HD or not. Okay, so they were the texture pack changes. The way that they've done it though now is the items PNG has all been cut up now, and the terrain PNG, and each item has its own file now, so you can animate textures as well using that. I'm not really sure on how you would do that. I'm not a texture pack maker, but if you are a texture pack maker then no doubt you will already know how to do that. Water and lava has slightly changed in terms of texture packs, and vanilla textures will be used in any missing texture files. So say in 1.6 I could still use Faithful 1.5 until the texture pack maker updated it, but I would not see the new items in the texture pack. They would be in vanilla, but at least it's not that horrible purple box, so that's a good start. And there's also been some updated language files, and there's added hidden support for this new feature called Minecraft Realms. And Minecraft Realms is going to be a server hosting service for like a family server. Minecraft Realms is sort of like, it's not open to LAN because it does work across multiple networks, but it's not like designed for huge servers with like 100 people on it. So Lividius Gaming, for example, will not be swapping to the Minecraft Realms feature. Currently it's only being tested. I imagine its full release will be in 1.6, so it can't be modded, and that's pretty much it with that really. I'm not part of the Minecraft Realms testing. Only about 100 users were chosen to do the Minecraft Realms testing, so I'm not part of that, so I couldn't really tell you more on that. I will inform you more no doubt in 1.6, the snapshots and such, what's going to be happening with that when we get a bit closer to release. So onto the gameplay elements. Creative mode inventory has been slightly improved. Potions have now been ordered. That was one thing that was kind of annoying. So yeah, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. There's also been some changes to dropping items from any inventory screen by pressing the drop item key, which is in our case Q, and you can hold control to drop an entire stack. You can click drag items stacks around to equally divide them across, which is really handy as well. So let me just show you with this redstone here. If you hold down shift and click, no, it's not shift and click, is it? What was it? Let me see here. Click drag, so you have to click and drag like that and it divides them up, which is nice. It certainly helps out in crafting so that you don't end up having to keep moving things around as you're crafting lots of items. And you can double click items to fill up the stack as much as possible. So if I went into here with some, I don't know, wooden planks, and I had a bunch of them just kind of all around, I can just shift double click, I think it is. Maybe not in creative, I think it's survival only. Double click items. Yeah, that it doesn't seem to work. Oh yeah, it does. It does work. You have to click the stack. But there you go. Double click items and they all neatly come together, which is really handy for cleaning things up, especially if a chest is broke as well. So that covers the main things in terms of inventory management. There's been some improved death messages. So death messages now include renamed mobs, and they're a bit more accurate. I'm not going to be killing myself, so I won't be able to inform you much more about that. There's been some output specific redstone channels which I will get into a little later, and there's been a scoreboard / leaderboard system. Now the scoreboard system I don't understand that well. It works with command blocks, so that's probably the only feature that I will not be showing in today's overview video. I recommend checking out Sethbling for more info on that. I really don't understand the scoreboard system. I don't really have time to go into it and be able to understand it right now. It doesn't seem that useful for me, but basically you can count deaths and such with it, and you can have a leaderboard system for PvP and such, so that's not too bad. Not too bad at all. And that pretty much covers the scoreboard system. So there's also been some new commands. There's an effect command which is applies potion effects. So if I went effect and then it brings up its usage here, you got effect, then you add the player, then you add the potion effect ID, so I believe 1 is slowness, then for the amount of seconds, then for the amplifier, which is speed 1, speed 2 or whatever. So why don't we just test it out. Then the effect would be ID 1, seconds will be 60, and the amplifier, that's just set to be 4. So I have been given speed right now, so I can move a lot faster. Definitely a big help. Not so much for this video though, because everything kind of goes into Quake Pro. I wonder what Quake Pro actually looks like. Insanity is the best way to put it. Man, that I don't know how anyone could play like this. I really don't. That doesn't look. Well, there's not words to describe that, and it seems like it can reach a lot further when you actually can't. It's just the way it looks. But there we go. Let's turn that back down. But there we go. That is the effect command. The test4 command only interacts with command blocks, which we're going to look at a little later. And obviously I've been through the scoreboard command already. So beyond that, there is some improved renaming of items, which is down here at the end. You can now rename mobs and they get this tag. This applies for all mobs, not just villagers. You can rename any sort of container based item and it puts the name there at the top. Rename command blocks will use their name instead of the @ symbol. Rename boss mobs, show their name above the health bar, and name tags are obviously displayed when you're actually looking at that entity. So that's that. For map makers, there's been some new MBT stuff. Minecarts can now carry any block. Falling sand can now be a tile entity, so you can have like chests drop out the sky from spawners which store specific items in there. Named entities can display their name tag when in name tag range, so that's pretty cool. Minecarts now act as spawners as well. You can have spawner minecarts which move. Entities can now also permanently ride other entities, which we will get into a bit later. But they are the main MBT related stuff. Let's just set the time back to daytime again. There's not much more beyond that really. There's a bunch of minor things like stairs no longer stop sprinting, right click in armor equips it, creative mode, entity hit range is increased to 5 blocks, entities and players no longer dismount things if they are riding, say when you log out. So if you log out while in a minecart, you will resume in a minecart, or a boat, or other similar things, say riding a pig or whatever. So there's been an absolute ton of redstone bug fixes and other bug fixes as well, which is part of this thing over here. Redstone overview. There's nothing in that chest, but basically this is to signify that there's been a ton of redstone fixes this time around. They've made redstone a lot more stable at Mojang, and they've added a lot of cool new items to interact with, which we will get into shortly. But if you really want to know the ins and outs of all the bug fixes, then I will link the relevant pages in the description where you can go and check them out. But honestly, I would be at this video for a good couple of hours going through all the bug fixes, so I decided to skip over them for sanity's sake. So yeah, there's been lots of other bug fixes. There's been some 2 world generation changes. Now if you go to an abandoned mineshaft generated in 1.5, minecart chests are now generated on a piece of rail instead of normal chests. And they've changed the nether cave generator to that of the overworld cave generator to fix some cut-off caves. So I think you'll find that there's a couple more nice caves in the nether to check out now. So that's something definitely to check out in the nether. So in terms of blocks and items, double slabs, they have changed. Everybody knows the smooth block slab, the one that uses this texture. But rather than looking like that, just has the same face, that face all over it. That's been given its own ID, so you can actually get one of those now. Using map editors and such, you can actually get those blocks now, along with a smooth sandstone block which has a texture of sandstone. I believe it's the smooth sandstone. And this one, if I show you the underside, it's got that texture all over the block, which is now 43 ID 9, I believe is what that is. So there we go, that covers that. So dispensers, they've received a massive update this time around. They now know about the 3rd dimension so that they can fire up and fire down. But let's see what they can do. So what's this one got in it? This one's got flint and steel in it. So now if I push the button, it will light fire rather than pushing out the dispenser, well, rather than firing it out, and it uses a bit of durability on the item. This one is Bonemeal. Bonemeal will now grow crops when fired from a dispenser. There's been some Bonemeal changes, so we'll look at Bonemeal in more depth in a little bit. You can now go up to a dispenser and press a button, and you can right click to equip armor. As you can see, I got my leggings off that. I'll put those leggings away, and there we go. It can shoot TNT, which we will look at in a minute before it blows everything up. But you can now shoot either up or down, or use any of these things in any of these, either up or down. I just use arrows, just as a simple example. Obviously there's going to be some random bias with them, as there always is, like that one landing on top of the dispenser, but the first one went behind the fence. But it's certainly cool that we can now use the 3rd dimension's worth of dispensers. So, last but not least, TNT. There we go. For those of you who wanted to see something blow up, you've now seen that. But yeah, they can also work with TNT. I'm just going to collect all this stuff up. So with that covered, we now move on to the comparator. And honestly, the comparator has been something which, personally, I've been excited about. When it was first introduced, I didn't really understand it, and it kind of weirded me out about what it could do. But now, honestly, the uses for this thing is immense. So this is the crafting recipe. By the way, the dispenser crafting recipe hasn't changed. It's just the standard cobble, redstone and bow. I don't think I spelt that right, but there we go. It's 3 smooth stone, a piece of nether quartz, which we will look at momentarily, and 3 redstone torches on top, which gives you a redstone comparator. So a redstone comparator can be used as a comparator for a start. And basically what this is doing right now is it takes the 2 signals, essentially. and wherever this signal, which is signal B, this is signal A, this is signal B, and this might be quite hard to understand, but signal A has got a power of 3 blocks, that's got a power of 2 blocks. At the moment, signal B is greater than signal A because it's closer. So this means that this will not output any power. But if we lower this, well, or if we increase this, so if I got myself some more redstone and amplified this up to 5, then it will be able to output because this one is greater. And this also stands for if you turned it off as well. So this will now be able to output power. So this is kind of the headway block basically in signal strength, and it matters now. So depending on the signal strength of 2 inputs, it can give an output. So these are just 2 levers. This is just a very bad example. You would not use this in survival. I could imagine that you could set up some sorting systems with this, with 2 different containers, which output a signal using another comparator, and you can make a decision based on that. In this situation, you could then maybe fire a hopper minecart to collect some items or something similar, but basically that's the comparator. It can also be used, I believe, as they call it, a deductor, which is the negative mode. And to get negative mode, you have to right click on the comparator and you get that little 3rd torch pop up, and it can be used as a subtractor. And in this case, signal A is 4, signal B is 2, so it takes 2 away from 4, so you get an output strength of 2. Not entirely sure of the applications of this yet. Maybe in some larger redstone builds I imagine that you'll be able to use this. Personally, I've not come up with anything using negative mode. I've come up with stuff using it in that mode, but not in negative mode. But there's a subtractor there, so if you can think of any ideas with that, that's how you equip the negative mode. So it also can detect how full a container is. It works with chests, trap chests, dispensers, and something new called droppers, furnaces, brewing stands, jukeboxes, command blocks, hopper minecarts, and chest minecarts. So basically, you put an item in, and it will activate the comparator and it will output a signal based on how full it is. There was only 1 item in there, so the signal strength is going to be very low. The more items in there, the more signal strength you can use. So you can use this to detect how full something is and set up sorting systems. You could use it as a trap, perhaps, maybe. I'm not entirely sure if you could or not. I guess you could. If you filled up the chest to half full, you could have it blow up or something like that. Or make the chest half empty, it could blow up. So you kind of have to choose what items you really want. But yeah, there's some cool additions. Specifically, it works with command blocks using the test for command, and we can look at that later when we get onto command blocks. But you can actually test for things, and the comparator will output a redstone signal based on that, which is really revolutionary with these things. So yeah. It also works slightly differently with jukeboxes. If I put a disc in there, say, if I grab a, I believe it's in miscellaneous, the music discs are, but if I got 13 in there, it would output a signal strength of 1, but if I put in the second music disc in there, it would output a signal strength of 2. Basically, each track, well, each disc has its own redstone signal, so the last one, Wait, I believe, has a signal strength of 14. So you can determine what music disc is playing through a redstone signal, which is really cool. I think some people have come up with a locking device based on jukeboxes now, which is really cool, I have to admit. But that's the changes with jukeboxes. There's nothing else really notably to say about these things. I've noticed with furnaces, they work and they will output 15 only when all 3 slots are filled. So they kind of work a bit strangely with furnaces. I'm not entirely sure of the applications of using it with a furnace, but it is there if you want to use it. But there we go. So that is the redstone comparator. And by the way, this video could get long because I'm going to be going through all the features, but certainly a revolutionary big block in this update. So we now move on to the daylight sensor, And the daylight sensor is crafted with 3 slabs, 3 quartz and 3 glass, and that gives you a daylight sensor. And what the daylight sensor does is, as it says, it detects daylight and then outputs a redstone signal based on that. So as the sun over there is going up in the sky, as you can see it just went on there, the higher it gets in the sky the more it gets powered, and as it sets the power decreases. So you can determine an action based on redstone depending on the time of day. I know some applications of this is to create a note block song in the morning and at night, and I think that you could probably come up with a few other cool ideas as well using this. But at the end of the day, I've not used this in survival at all, but I'm sure that there will be some cool things come up with this. I know that also you can set up automatic villager detection systems so that lights come on at night for villagers, or an automatic door locking system to prevent mobs from reaching them, and all that kind of cool stuff. So this is kind of a headway thing with protecting villagers. There's not a whole lot more to say about that, but there we go. That is the daylight detector. Now we've got the redstone block. This is basically a movable redstone torch, and this has been a feature that a lot of people have wanted for a lot of time, but as Mojang said at Minecon, they didn't want to add this until it had a use. So the crafting recipe for the block of redstone is 9 redstone. I believe you can return 9 redstone out of a block as well, so it acts as a storage way of moving things around. So I just have this simple setup here. It acts as a movable redstone source, so if I extend the piston it moves the block, so it powers this lamp instead. Honestly, there's not a whole lot more you could do with this than what you couldn't already do with a torch, but it is definitely handy to have a movable redstone source. And that's really about it when it comes to the redstone block. There's not a whole lot more to say about it really. So now we move on to the Nether Quartz, and the Nether Quartz is an ore that now generates naturally in the Nether. In the Nether, you will find this quite common. It's about as common as iron, but because the Nether's so open, you will see, and it will appear a lot more common than what it actually is. So Nether Quartz, when mined, gives this Nether Quartz item. It can be mined with any pickaxe from wood to diamond. It does work with fortune, and it also works with silk touch. And basically this is used in a lot of the new recipes in 1.5 to use some of the redstone things, and it also has its own unique set of blocks to go with it. So you can have a quartz block, which is 4 pieces of Nether Quartz. It's just that standard quartz block. You can get this chiseled quartz block variant, which is 2 quartz slabs on top of each other. You get a chiseled quartz block. You can get a pillar block, which is 2 blocks of quartz above each other, and you get 2 pillar quartz blocks. Stairs, standard crafting recipe, and slabs, standard crafting recipe. Yeah, and also pillars can now also be placed like logs as well, so you can have different ways. So I can imagine people can come up with some patterns. I know a lot of people have come up with ideas of making Roman pantheons and stuff out of these blocks, as they are that kind of colour. But there you go. There's not a whole lot more to say about those either really. But there we go. Moving on to Nether Brick. This is not a redstone related change, but it's still a nice change that we have now got. You can now smelt netherrack using the furnace into these nether bricks, and these nether brick items can be used to craft the various different nether brick items that were previously only available in fortresses. So 4 nether bricks will give you a actual nether brick block. This will give you nether brick stairs. 3 will give you a slab, and the nether brick blocks of course give you a fence. So if you have an abundance of netherrack in some chests maybe stored, you can now smelt them down into nether brick if you like to use nether brick in your designs. So that pretty much covers that. We're getting there. We're getting there. So next we have the trapped chest. Now the trap chest, it is what it is basically. I don't think map makers will use this a lot because it's kind of obvious with the latch. But basically a trap chest is a chest and a tripwire hook, and you get a trapped chest. And the trap chest basically outputs a redstone signal of 1, and it also increases with the amount of people looking in that chest. And you can extend that and you can use it to blow up TNT or give an output. In this case I made a command block and it says, hey, hands off. And that's just a standard use of it. You can also completely hide any redstone. It transmits a signal through the floor, basically. And I believe my command block is set up right here. You can see it goes below the block and then into a redstone signal, which is extended by a repeater, and then goes into a command block, and that one says hidden signal. Honestly, because of the latch colour over a normal chest, I can't see many map makers using that. Many of them will just simply carry on using the prime TNT spawners that we were using before. But this is probably a good use for servers. You can have some fun with these, maybe, and create a few traps to prank your friends with. And that pretty much covers those. Next up is hoppers. Hoppers are a revolutionary block again. You can put items in and they will suck them through into the hopper, and then they will go out of the bottom into another container, and then they can be moved and whatnot. So if I put the lever in, it goes through and you can get the lever out of the bottom. Applied a redstone signal to hoppers means that it will not be able to make any items pass through. So you can set up some pretty complex sorting systems with these. I've seen a video by DocM where you have a mob trap and it automatically sorts all the drops for you, which is really handy if you have some sort of mob farm in your survival world. Not too many applications I can see, maybe so much in creative, but I do know some big redstone builds can use these collectively with comparators. I didn't set up a demo over there, but you can actually use comparators with hoppers as well. But there we go, that pretty much covers that. So weighted pressure plates, these things are these right here, and you can either get a light variant, which is the gold, or a heavy version, which is the iron, and it's 2 ingots, just like any other type of pressure plate. And what these do is these respond on items, so if you stand on them or a mob stands on them, they aren't activated. But on a light one, tossing the lever will give an output signal of 1, as will the heavy one, but the variants are quite different, shall we say. If I get myself a stack of cobblestone and I dump the stack on there, that will give me a full 15. So this is the difference between the light. If I pick that up again, Control Q, that one only gives the power of 2. This is because this one needs 922 items to be fully powered. I have to be honest, I've never seen a device with these yet, but maybe somebody can come up with something based on them. I honestly have never seen anything based on them right now. They don't seem to be all that useful, but there we go, they're added. You might come up with a use for them, but I think there are other ways of detecting items now. Makes those kind of redundant. But there we go. Next up is Activator Rails. These are Activator Rails. These are basically redstone current for minecarts. They are crafted with 6 iron ingots either side, a stick above and below, and a redstone torch in the middle, and you get 6 Activator Rails. Activator Rails can be powered, and they also transmit power, I believe 8 blocks, just like the powered rail does. So there we go. What this can be used for at the moment is mainly 2 uses. It can be used in the TNT Minecart, which we'll get to in a minute, and the hopper minecart to act basically like redstone does with a hopper to stop it collecting up items. Not a whole lot of uses for this obviously, but there we go. It's a cool little redstone transmission block for minecarts. So it's basically like redstone dust and torches for minecarts. And that's that. Yeah. So moving on again, we've got droppers. So droppers are basically the block added to drop items, because now with all the dispenser changes which we've already been through, that means that we can't drop stuff like flint and steels or armor or whatever. So there, Mojang added the dropper. And the dropper is crafted with cobblestone and redstone, no bow in the middle, and you get a dropper. And a dropper will just simply, if you dispense it, drop items. And that is it. And it's stuff like arrows will also be dropped. Armor. Let's see if I can get it. There we go. Shoots the chest plate out. It will also drop stuff like that. Arrows get dispensed as an arrow. So there you go. If you're going to be doing anything in terms of sorting with different things, you will probably want to use droppers instead of dispensers now. And they are a bit nicer on resources, I have to admit. Bows can be kind of hard to come by unless you just want to go out and fight a ton of spiders, or you've been to an abandoned mine shaft. There we go. Droppers. Pretty simple type of thing, really. So now there has been some changes with beacons. Their range has been increased by 25%, and their upward range is now infinite. Snow has been slightly changed. You can now get the snow layers that we see on the bottom of taiga biomes and frozen plains biomes, and they also now stack by right clicking, and they can be stacked up to a full block, and then it just starts stacking on top. So these are crafted with 3 snow blocks, and that will give you 6 snow layers, so you could use those to your own benefit, and maybe make some designs out of it. But there we go. This will not generate in normal vanilla circumstances. They attempted that, but it caused so much lag that it was not able to be implemented. They could only implement it via that way. Okay, so moving on, we now have minecarts. So we're going to look at the minecart with the hopper and the minecart with TNT. But a general minecart, so container cart, so chests and hoppers, they will now go faster the emptier they are. So the more full they are, the slower they go. Which is kind of means that weight has a significance on speed. Which is a nice change. I like that change. There we go. So first is minecarts with hoppers. Minecarts with hoppers is crafted with a minecart and a hopper together. One on top of the other, and you get a minecart with a hopper. And what this does is it can take in items just like a normal hopper, and it can distribute out the bottom into a chest just like a normal hopper can, but it has the unique ability to be able to hoover things up from the track like that. It could just pick things up along the minecart track and put them in there. Having Activator Rail current applied to it means it won't pick up items for a certain section, so basically it's just kind of condenses things a little more and enables transport easier, because there's no real major differences between these things. But it does mean you can move things around now and dispense things onto a track, using droppers maybe, to pick things up a lot easier, using these minecarts. So that's pretty much it in terms of those. There's not a whole lot more to say about them. So now let's get on to the moment everybody's been waiting for, the minecart with TNT. So the minecart with TNT is crafted with a minecart and a TNT above it, and you get obviously the minecart with TNT. Minecarts with TNT are basically a minecart with TNT in it. There's not a whole lot more to say. It explodes more violently the faster it goes. It explodes when it derails abruptly or catches on fire. When blown up in a controlled manner, i.e. using Activator Rails, it will not destroy any rails. It will only destroy the blocks around the rails. So we're going to try this out first. Here we go. And it will blow up. Oh. I was not expecting that. I guess it was because it wasn't on the Activator Rail when it blew up. Maybe that was it. But yeah, that's, you can see why it derails so violently. If I make some of these, oops, get a lever. I think my lever probably blew up. So let's grab ourselves a lever. I was not expecting that, I have to admit. These things can be, just like with normal TNT, unreliable. So if I put this on here and light it, That's what I was looking for. It doesn't destroy the rail or the blocks underneath it, but it will destroy stuff around it. So you could use this for traps and stuff, I imagine. But not a whole lot more than that. Maybe to prank your friends on a server or in map development. So last but not least, in terms of changes to blocks and items, is Bonemeal. Bonemeal, as I mentioned earlier, had some changes. Now if you plant a crop like that and you right click it, it no longer insta grows, it grows in stages, and that one took 2 stages. It can be between 2 and 3 stages. Trees are also between 2 and 3 stages, but I believe giant mushrooms are just the 1 still. So it's not a massive change. It was when it first came out, but it's not too bad now. It just means the start of a custom map might be a little harder than before, because you're going to have to fight some skeletons, or maybe the map maker will provide you with some bones to get you started in food. That's the only real changes with Bonemeal, really. I think the reason they did it is because otherwise people will be setting fully automated systems up using the dispensers and then harvesting them instantly and collecting them. So to prevent that cycle, they use the Bonemeal. Bonemeal giving more than 1 use. That made no sense. Making Bonemeal take more than 1 use to grow a crop. That's what I was looking for. Been rambling a long while now, so beginning to lose focus a little here. But we're almost there. We are almost there. Mobs now have slightly changed. All mobs will try and avoid minecart tracks where possible. Slimes now spawn less commonly in swamps depending on moon phases. Zombies have slightly changed in their behaviour. I'm just going to bump this up to normal now. If I get some zombie spawn eggs, and I spawn a few zombies in here, with these 3 zombies, if I hit one of them, then all 3 of them will attempt to move towards me. Well, they're meant to do. Maybe it's in survival. I don't know. So we try survival. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to have a behaviour trait similar to pigmen. Yeah, they're meant to have a behaviour similar to pigmen, and they will focus on you for a good distance away now, and they will follow you. But there we go. So they have a trait now similar to that of pigmen, where they will call out to other zombies, and then the other zombies will attempt to chase you down as well. So that makes them just a little more tough than what they were before. And skeletons also received an update. They now have a longer range. They have 15 blocks instead of 10 that they were before. And also they shoot faster the closer you are to them. So as you can see. But they do shoot with less power than if you were further away. And they also now, depending on range, have a different accuracy. So on easy they're going to miss quite often. On normal they will have a bit better accuracy. On hard and hardcore they will almost always land a hit. And the closer you get, the more damage that they deal. But because they shoot faster, so Mojang changed that a little bit and made them, the closer you get to the skeleton, the arrows themselves do less damage, but because they shoot faster at you, that means you're going to be taking a little bit more damage unless you have some decent armor on. So it's made skeletons a little more buff now. Back in the days before automatic healing, skeletons were a fearsome enemy. That was for sure, because 2 or 3 shots from a skeleton and you were dead. So many people were unhappy at how weak the skeletons had become, and the zombies, so they decided to buff them. In addition as well, zombies now will set players on fire when they are on fire themselves. They have an increased player detection range, and they are now stronger the more damaged they are. Not even I knew that. So they are difficulty scale behaviour as well. But that pretty much covers, I believe, the mobs. I don't think there's any other mob changes. Not really. So I believe that is pretty much the main things of 1.5. There is obviously the MBT tag stuff that I've not been through because that's not really related to vanilla in many ways. If you want to check those out, then I would highly recommend visiting Seth Bligg's channel. He does more of that kind of thing with the map making stuff, using his filters. And oh, I don't want to set that, I want to set the time. He does that kind of thing, and he also knows a lot more about the scoreboard system than I do, so if you want to know about the scoreboard system, then I would recommend hopping over to his channel as well. So that will be just YouTube search Seth Bling and it'll come up, and then you can view his snapshot reviews from there. So that pretty much covers this entire update, 1.5. There's not a whole lot more to say. Obviously it was called the Redstone update. I am really looking forward to getting to messing with some of these things in survival mode. But there we go, that's an overview of everything in this update, kind of neatly bundled it all together. I'm not going to ramble on about it too much because I want to let you get going now and check out the stuff yourself and have a play around with it. But there we go, 1.5. So I hope that you found this video useful. You know a bit more about the stuff now than you did before. Obviously, I went through some things a bit more in depth in some of my snapshot videos than I did here. So if you want to check that out, all my snapshots are linked in a playlist, which this video will be the last one of. I thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next snapshot, which will be the start of 1.6 development. Lots of plans for 1.6 from what I can hear. But let's just enjoy 1.5 for now. But there we go. So until next time, guys, see you later, and have a good day.